Thank you to everyone who's already supporting us on Patreon. We've been pleasantly surprised by how many people were able to support the podcast, given we've only been going a couple of months. We are going to come back in September, but we can't continue indefinitely unless we get more supporters. So please visit patreon.com and support the podcast today.
As socialists, we believe in that great Marxist principle, from each according to their ability, to each according to their need. And that's reflected in the 3 levels of support we've created, because we can't speak to your ability, but we can speak to our need. We're going to need you to put your money where your ears are. We have 3 packages. The Wokerati package, £3 a month plus VAT. The Prosecco Socialist, £10 a month plus VAT. And the Ultimate Comrade, £50 a month plus VAT. Bearing in mind, you don't have to be a socialist to contribute. You just have to appreciate what we're doing. All of the packages include over the top, under the radar weekly bonus episode, access to the WhatsApp private community. We had a great night on election night with our WhatsApp community. Karis and I were in there all the way through the night, and the weekly newsletter. Prosecco Socialist, £10 a month, and the Ultimate Comrade, £50 a month, also include first to know about live and in-person events. So, if you have the money and you are enjoying this podcast, please, if you can, do.
Big news, we're doing our first ever over-the-top, under-the-radar live event in September.
Spend the evening with us and a special guest in London from 7 o'clock as part of London Podcast Festival. For all of you outside London, if this goes well, hopefully we will do other events.
If you want to get tickets, you can visit kingsplace.co.uk for more information, but we'll also pin the link to our social media channels and in the show notes.
Have some fun. It will be a great event. It will also be our first event, making history.
Want to support us? Come along. We'd love to see you.
The event will be at King's Place, which is just up the road from King's Cross in London, part of a building that was my old workplace at The Guardian.
5th of September, lots of places for socialist snacks. It's an evening event. Gary, Karis, please come along. Hi, I'm Karis Afoko.
And I'm Gary Young.
It's August. We pre-recorded some episodes for you, and this one is responding to listener questions.
This is Over the Top, Under the Radar, in the Mailbag.
Gary, we're doing a listener episode. I'm excited.
In the mailbag.
In the mailbag. There's not a physical mailbag. It's digital. But I'm excited. We've got good listeners, you know.
We have the best listeners. You know, I reckon our listeners could have The Rest is Politics.
Rest is Politics in a Fight.
Yeah.
There might not be as many, but they'd like have the moves.
I think they'd have them in a fight. I think they would definitely have them. Let's say that they weren't having a fight, political violence and all that. We're against that.
Yeah, we're against
that. They could have them in an argument. If there was
a tug of war.
Tug of war. That is a
numbers game.
That is a difficult one. But I think in an argument, we could take them.
Yeah,
a food fight. See, I keep going cerebral.
You're trying to make, and I go stay in the gutter, Gary. Okay, I think you're right, and also I think what I like about our listeners, it's a mixture of super intellectual lefty stuff and then like silliness. It's not just like fix the world. It's like, when you're fixing the world, what would you be eating?
Exactly. I like that a lot of their silliness revolves, and I don't think this is necessarily an accident because it comes through us. Their silliness revolves around snacks, food,
friendship.
Yeah, I think we still got some more silliness to go. We will, in time, get to relationship questions. A lot of your analogies turn on like a relationship thing, and you're related to a political thing. So
it's a bit telling, isn't it? Very single at the moment, listeners. So enough about that. Let's hear what the listeners have to say.
Yes, let's get into the mailbag. The first one is from Fold from X. What do you think it would take to properly challenge the media politico complex's stranglehold on society's narratives in the UK at this point? Is there an achievable strategy? You're in comms. Do it.
Well, I was going to be like, you're a journalist. Do it. Okay, you got there first. To start optimistically, if you think about the British media now and you think about it 20 years ago, I think there has been quite a successful challenge to the sort of right-wing tabloid industrial complex. Like, I don't think The Sun and the Daily Mail have the same amount of heft and clout as they used to, because most people get their news from social media. Social media has a bigger diversity of sources, and you can see people like Joe Politics, Novara Media, Double Down News, lots of smaller media businesses that have different politics to the big tabloids that can cut through and reach lots of people. And also, you know, like the 2017 election, Momentum's Facebook videos had like bigger reach than most newspapers. So I think the internet has changed the game. To the bit of your question about the media politico complex, I think the problem is people in Westminster, they are the biggest consumers of traditional news. Like, what I know, when the Tories were in power, the Mail on Sunday was their Bible. That really shaped how they thought about the news and the media. And I think you still get that with the BBC doing the paper review. So I think that the right wing, specifically tabloid press, has less power. And I think we can chip away at that power by supporting independent media like us, like other people. But I think this problem of like, we have a pretty small political and media elite who all consume the same thing and all kind of talk each other up and report on each other's stories and listen to the Today programme. I think that's a tougher nut to crack.
Like you, I want to question one of the premises, which is the degree to which they do have a stranglehold. And when I think of 2017 and the onslaught that there was against Labour under Corbyn, and then the result, which I'm well aware that Labour didn't win, but where they got significantly more votes than they did this time, where they gained vote share, where they gained seats. This suggested that while the media is powerful, it's not all powerful. We have to create our own narratives. We can't constantly have our discussions and priorities being mediated through what happened on LBC, or, you know, what Piers Morgan did, or what the Daily Mail headline is, and then responding to that. We have to have the conversations that we think are valuable, and then we have to kind of model them and amplify them. I think there are enough examples of where the media onslaught has failed and where kind of public opinion has prevailed to think that while they are big and while they can be mean, I'm not sure that they are certainly not as in control as they would like to be.
They're definitely not monoliths as well. I think it is possible to campaign and change the media we have. I'm not going to suggest the Daily Mail will ever become like a socialist outlet, but there are journalists within a lot of these outlets that, yeah, you can work with or do things with. They're not Death Stars that we can't.
No. And if you think
we had a Death Star. Ignore that analogy.
Were you going Star Wars? Were you trying to go
Well,
Star
I was
Wars?
like, but they're not, we destroyed the Death Star, so forget that. I guess, I mean, like, I've had good coverage in the Daily Mail before. I worked for a feminist campaigning organisation.
Yeah, that's what you mean when you say you've had good coverage.
Yeah, like, I've worked with journalists at papers where the editors don't share my politics, and especially working on women's rights and gender issues, there are normally women at most of these media outlets, and some of them are survivors of domestic violence. So if you run a campaign about how journalists write about men who kill their partners, they are receptive and they will lobby on your behalf. I'm not going to pretend that the solution is working with right-wing outlets, but I think realising they aren't monoliths and they aren't always entirely just like forces for negative right-wing propaganda would be one nuance I would add.
And if we look at public opinion around the strikes and around Gaza, then we can see that you have pretty much an entire media and an entire political class. And I think one of the things that, I'm not sure if it's implied in your question or not, but I'm taking it as being so, is that the media class and political class are basically the same people. They come from the same schools quite often. There's a bit of a revolving door. If you think of George Osborne, Boris Johnson, Ed Balls, all of these people, they go in, they go out, Alistair Campbell, Rory Stewart. Then we look at what people think about strikes, about cost of living crisis, about Gaza and so on, despite the fact that the political class is reined in one direction and the overwhelming majority of the media class is right there behind them, and then the public class somehow make up their own mind.
And final thing, which is why the Tories always attack it so much, the media that has the most reach and the most trust in the UK is the BBC. And that is not a horrible right-wing media politico complex. It is not perfect, but I think there are reasons to be hopeful about our media landscape. Is this my question? From Kenny?
I think it is.
You're on BBC iPlayer. You click categories. Peace comes up. What films would you like to see there? So I think it's like a films about peace.
This will sound odd, but I think something like Do the Right Thing, which doesn't end peacefully. I do love that film, but it is about the fragility of what looks like peace. Because I think we need a kind of critique of peace, right? Because peace can just be understood as the absence of physical violence or the absence of war, but then all sorts of things can be going on under the surface. One of the things I love about that film is the way that you see on this hot day the tension brewing, and it all, to the naked eye, it all looks very peaceful. But yeah, so that could be one.
It's a good pick. I don't know if it's really about peace. It's just a film that I like. I'm just struggling to think of it like... Is
it like Transformers?
No.
Because that's not about
It's called
peace.
No. It's about the Chilean, the plebiscite on Pinochet.
That's about peace.
So it's called No. I think it's from 2012. It is a film about the vote, the plebiscite on Pinochet's leadership. And it's about yes and the no campaigns. But I love it because it's about the left and it's also about communications. And it's about a young guy who's an advertising exec working with the trade union leaders to run I believe it's the No campaign. I think it's like No to Pinochet. Maybe it's yes. Pretty sure it's No. It's about peace and it's about a country in a transitional moment. But it's also about something I really believe when it comes to communications as a lefty. All the trade union leaders want to talk about the pain and the suffering of Pinochet and the desaparecido and like el dolor. And like they want to talk about the weighty, serious stuff because they've suffered and like the country needs a change. And this young advertising exec who helps them with their comms is like, no, we've got to talk about the future. And like, and he seems sort of silly and fluffy and like rainbows and happiness and like the Chile we can build together. Can't talk about the past. Can't like just go on about how awful Pinochet is. And spoiler alert, that is the campaign that won, the one that was optimistic and forward looking. So yeah, I guess it is about peace in Chile. And it's also for me about that thing of, you know, why I do the job that I do is that sometimes if you care about an issue as a lefty or with any politics, the thing that motivates you or the reason you care may not be the way to sign someone else up to your cause. And that doesn't mean you just say whatever the hell you hear in a focus group, but it does mean you have to meet the people you need to bring with you, like along the way. And I think it often means that we have to talk about the future and not just the bad stuff in the past.
The other one I would add is the Vietnam War, the Ken Burns film that was on Netflix.
I've not seen that.
That was brilliant. I recommend that to the house. Incredibly powerful.
Is it a film or documentary?
It's a documentary.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, there you go.
So from Tabara, from the Over and Under WhatsApp community.
Hey-o.
Yes, hey Tabara. And
Fun
her question
people.
is for funsies. And she says, are you over the top or under the radar when it comes to cream teas? This is very important because cream is involved.
Yeah, Gary likes cream, for those who don't know. He bloody loves cream. The thicker the better.
When Karis comes to my house, she says, shall I bring a dessert? What should I bring? I said, you need to bring something that goes with cream. To me, dessert is the excuse for cream. Do you put the jam on first in the cream tea and then the cream, or the cream first with the jam on top?
I mean, I've got a view.
Go.
It has to be. It needs to be clotted cream and it needs to go on first and then you put the jam on top. Otherwise, it looks rank. Do you agree?
No.
What?
I say, put the cream on, fuck the jam.
Put more cream.
Just put more cream on.
Bit more cream.
That jam's just taking up cream space.
It's taking up cream real estate. Okay, that was a good answer. Also, I do actually love a cream tea. I feel like one thing about not being super posh is I don't get that many cream teas. I do bloody love a cream. Have you ever done one where you get the sandwiches?
Yes.
And then they get the...
I have a friend in the House of Lords who took me and Andrea Levy, who was a good friend of mine, the author, and she took us for high tea in the house. And it had one of those...
With a little tower.
Tower.
Wait, did you get booze or was it just tea?
I think it's okay if I name her. It's Baroness Lola Young. She and Andrea and I were, been friends for a long time. And they are a pretty sober bunch, so I'm assuming...
Oh, okay, it was just the tea.
And it was also in the afternoon.
Okay, that's nice. I've been to a high tea before where they're cracking out the fizz. You get tea as well, but I mean, yeah, can I just say, Really good question.
Top question.
The cream definitely goes on first. Gary won't bother with the jam. I also just at this point want to say I don't like strawberry jam. It's a bullshit jam. I'm sorry, I don't. I think it's terrible. Give me a raspberry, give me an apricot, give me a gooseberry, give me like a damson. But strawberry jam, man, it's not good.
I love the idea that you have a position not on whether jam. I mean, I thought I was, I have a
It's controversial,
view,
your position. No jam.
But you are against strawberry jam. That's
I'm just
so
saying,
specific.
if it's strawberry jam, I'm very disappointed. I'll put it on like a thin layer with the cream. But if you just tried to give me strawberry jam on toast, I'd throw it in your face, Gary.
Oh, well.
And I'd spit in your face
after.
Good.
This is really good to know.
Excellent question, Tamara. We love it. The Over Under WhatsApp community. Bring in the snacks chat. Ben, also from the Over Under WhatsApp community. Love you guys.
They're representing.
Gary has observed both US and UK politics and society closely for years. This is true. With the shift towards more extreme politics in both countries, what is markedly similar or markedly dissimilar? Could there be a Trump-like figure here, or are we just too different to go down that road? Oh, that's a good one.
That is a good question. And I think that a few things, the dissimilarities jump out at me first. One is that we don't have so much religion. Organized religion is not such a thing. Democrat base being in the African American community, different kind of religion to the Republican base and the evangelical community. And that particularly, it seems, among the Republicans can drive a lot. That first of all, they're having a political meeting every week. And secondly, there is a belief system that, pun not intended, that trumps logic. It's about the almighty. So then that's a different conversation. We don't have the segregation that America has, which is also significant in terms of stories that are shared or not shared. So when I was covering the election in 2008, for Republicans knew for a fact that the financial crash was caused by poor loans to black people as a result of a Clinton initiative. They just knew that to be true. The other thing that would be dissimilar in terms of political violence is that we don't have guns. Everything in America is more lethal. That includes elections. The things that are similar would be that we are two powerful, overwhelmingly white countries at war with the world, which means that there is a determined distortion about who we are and what we do, and a sense of entitlement to run the world. We can have nuclear weapons because we know what to do with them and we are responsible, but they can't because they're crazy and, what have you. And a certain amount of official delusion. There has been in both instances an undercurrent of left opinion trying to find a home and an undercurrent of right-wing opinion that did find a home and that landed.
I think about it not just about Trump, but also around 08 Obama. Do you think there's something about British culture, though, that stops us from being like so vocal and enthusiastic about politicians? Like, I don't know, the way that MAGA rallies are depicted and like the way that people felt, like that kind of like politicians as rock stars, like people talk about MAGA events as like, I guess, going to like a mega church. Do you think we got it in the tank in the UK to feel like that about a politician, or are we all just a bit like...
Well, if you think back to 2017 and Corbyn
at Glastonbury,
that was big, and him turning up at train stations and people being out to cheer. And we haven't seen that before. We haven't seen it since.
And people chanting in football grounds, right? They're like, that's true. There was a bit of that, yeah.
It's also true that I've been to a few MAGA rallies. Now...
Oh, my. That's a conversation for another day.
It was a while back, 2016. But one of the things to note about that was that it looked like people were hyped up on telly, but actually Donald Trump is a pretty boring speaker.
He doesn't
pretty ridiculous. He goes on and he rambles. And I'm going to build a big wall. I'm going to build a big, beautiful wall. You're going to just love this wall.
So big. It's beautiful. And I got the cement. Yeah, you're right. He does ramble.
The guy next to me who, he'd come kind of quite enthusiastic, but he was checking his phone within about 5-10 minutes of Trump being on. Even the Obama mania that they talked about, it was a lot more sedate in the room than it was on election night. Obviously, people went nuts, but it was a much more sedate process. Some of that's marketing, I think. And as for Britain producing, one might argue that Boris Johnson was a version of that. A serial liar, sexually incontinent person who lied his way to the top. Farage would be, the
less
thing is,
successful. Obviously.
They're not going to look like, Trump is about as American as you can get, and ours would be as British as you can get. So they will look and perform differently. But I think we've seen versions of them in the making. We're not them. We may not, I hope, have their future. But I think they will look like, if Boris Johnson and Nigel Farage could have a love child,
Lord.
it.
Lord.
I think that's what it would be.
Let the science never make that possible.
Yeah. A Randy Git with a pint. Be at or X by Bilal. What are the things you are proudest of accomplishing so far? And what do you hope still to accomplish?
Oh, God. Yes. Do you want to do that first?
No, I don't.
You've accomplished a lot more than me. I think the thing I am proudest of accomplishing is I co-founded an organisation called Level Up that still exists with some other women. It's a feminist campaign group. I'm proud of some of the stuff we did when I was running it, but I'm much more proud that there's a group of young women that are doing it now. And it's a small non-profit in the UK, so very hand to mouth, like a lot of the feminist movement. And I'm really proud that the group of women running it now are a completely different group of women to the ones who founded it, and that it sort of meant enough to them that they wanted to keep it going. I'm proud that we flew a plane over Cristiano Ronaldo's first game for Man United, saying we believe Catherine Mayorga. I'm proud of the work we did and that Level Up is still doing around sexual violence in football, because it really is a classic example of David and Goliath that's trying to hold really rich and powerful men to account for things that they do and for a problem that's rife in that industry. So proud of that, of some of the activist stuff I've done and of the women who are still doing it.
And what do you hope still to accomplish?
Oh, I have no idea, Gary.
Okay. So let me go while you think of that. There's some personal stuff that I'm proud of in terms of kids and life and things that I think I'm going to be a bit boundaried and not sharing. Work-wise, my 5th book, Another Day in a Death America, which is about all of the children who were shot dead in one day.
Great book.
I was very proud of that book because it did a thing that I think journalism should do in terms of bringing stories out that you haven't heard and contextualizing them and so on. And within that context, also a series of articles that we did about knife crime called Beyond the Blade, which are on the Guardian website. You can see them, which once again tried to contextualize knife crime and give a sense of the context in which it's taking place and the factors that are driving it. And those felt like contributions to a discussion. And the article that I'm most proud of, which felt like an accomplishment, was the story of Claudette Colvin, who was, before Rosa Parks was kicked off the bus, Claudette Colvin, 15-year-old, was kicked off the bus. She pled not guilty. She was going to be the one they ran with, but she was dark-skinned. She was 15. She got pregnant and they dropped her. It took me a couple of years to find her because she was working in the Bronx as a nurse's aide. And I wrote an article, big article about her in Guardian Weekend. And I was very proud to. That felt like a kind of contribution. And what do you
hope to accomplish, Gary?
I hope to
what
accomplish,
left?
This will sound trite. I'm a 55-year-old man. I've lived 11 years longer than my mother ever did. What I hope to do is encourage people. I mean, I'm not dead yet, but I've had a long career. I want to support other people and younger people in what they do in some kind of meaningful way. I think Gareth Southgate, who I would also totally have at my dinner table, would love at my dinner table. I think he'll have very good manners. I think he could teach me a thing or two. Knowing when to go, how to go on your own terms, and how to kind of gracefully as you can, retire. That is kind of, that is what I want to accomplish.
This is not his retirement announcement, though.
It's not his retirement announcement.
But no.
His...
And for those who don't know Gary personally, he is very good at supporting not just younger people, but other people. So I think you're doing that. I'm going to do I'm proud of this podcast. I hope we get to continue it. And And in terms of what I hope to accomplish, I think I was a very creative child. Like I played a lot of instruments and sang in choirs and wrote stories and all that kind of stuff. And I like left uni, got a job and just worked and was very focused on like not making money in a capitalist sense, but on just sort of
making it.
Yeah, making just your like way. Having, you know, I guess like being middle class. It wasn't an aspiration, but like didn't grow up with a huge amount of money and have been able through like luck and work, definitely lots of luck and some privilege, to be in a better situation than like my mum was when she was raising us. And I'm proud of that. But I think what I want for the next chapter of my life is to like focus a bit more on like creating things, making things and joy and things that are fun, as well as like paying for bills and having stuff. Thank you for listening to Over the Top and Under the Radar.
Remember to like, review and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.
And you can support the show, and we would love you to support the show so we can keep doing it by donating to us on Patreon. Search for the podcast on patreon.com.
And you can message us on our socials at over_under_pod_ or email us at info@overunderpod.com.